Mark had always felt like an outsider, ever since he was a child. He had a hard time connecting with others. His classmates found him strange. His teachers thought he was shy, but Mark didn't care. He spent his time alone, often wandering in the nearby woods or staring at the stars above. The night sky, filled with endless stars, always made him feel like there was something more out there, something beyond his lonely little world. One evening, as he walked through the woods near his home, something unusual caught his attention. A strange light flickered through the trees. Mark stopped in his tracks, staring at the glowing light. At first, he thought it was just the moon or maybe a car passing by on the distant road. But this light wasn't like anything he had ever seen before. It was brighter, almost alive, curious, and a bit nervous. Mark crept closer to the source of the light. His heart raced as he pushed through the thick branches, and then he saw it, a small, glowing craft hovering above the ground. It wasn't like any plane or helicopter he had seen before. It was smooth, silver, and shaped like a disc. The air around it seemed to shimmer. Before Mark could process what he was seeing, a soft sound broke through the silence. He turned his head, and that's when he saw her. Standing just a few feet away was a figure he couldn't even begin to understand. She was tall, much taller than any human woman Mark had ever seen. Her skin was a shade of blue he had never encountered before. It was smooth, almost glowing, and it seemed to change color in the soft light of her craft. She wore a strange outfit, made of materials Mark couldn't recognize. In her eyes, those eyes were the brightest shade of silver. She looked at him, her gaze steady and calm. But there was something powerful in it, something ancient. Mark opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His mind was racing. Was this a dream? Was he hallucinating? Or was he looking at something far beyond anything he had ever known? "You're not afraid." The voice came from her, but it wasn't like any voice Mark had ever heard. It wasn't human. It was melodic, calm, but with an edge of something wild, something deep. Mark finally managed to speak, his voice shaking. Who are you?" The alien woman smiled, though it was soft, like she was amused by his confusion. "I am Lyra," she said, taking a step closer, "and I have come to understand your world." Mark's mind was still trying to catch up with the strange reality unfolding in front of him. This wasn't possible. Aliens weren't real. Yet here she was, standing right before him. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice more confident now, though still filled with disbelief. "I was sent to study your species," Lyra replied. "I come from a place far from here, from a world that has watched yours for many years. But I have always been curious about you, about humans. Study us," Mark repeated, confused. "You mean you're like a scientist or something?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, but I'm not like your scientists. I'm a traveler. I observe and learn. I seek understanding." Her eyes softened. "I have seen many worlds, but your world, your people, there is something special about you." Mark felt his heart racing. This was real. She was real. But what did she mean by that? What was special about humans? He couldn't help but wonder why she had come here, to Earth. Of all places, was it just to observe, or was there something more? Before he could speak again, Lyra took another step closer, her long, graceful limbs moving with an elegance that made her seem otherworldly. "You must have questions," she said, her voice now gentle. "But you are not alone in this." "I will answer them." Mark, his mouth went dry. How did she know his name? Was she watching him? Did she know more about him than he realized? Why me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's gaze softened even more, and she knelt down in front of him, lowering herself to his level. "Because you are like me, Mark," she said. "We are both searching for something, for understanding. And in that search, we may find more than we expected." Mark's thoughts raced as he looked into her eyes. The way she spoke, so calmly, so assuredly, it was as if she knew things he could only begin to comprehend. He felt a strange pull inside him, an urge to learn more, to understand her. Even though everything about her seemed impossible, he had always felt alone in the world. But standing in front of this alien woman, something deep inside him whispered that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as alone as he thought. "I don't understand," he said, feeling small under her gaze. "But I want to. I want to know who you are. What you are." Lyra smiled, and for a brief moment, Mark thought he saw a flicker of warmth in her silver eyes. "That is a good start," she said, her voice soft. "Now we can begin." The days that followed Mark's first encounter with Lyra were filled with confusion and wonder. He couldn't stop thinking about her. The way she spoke, the way her presence seemed to fill the air with something he couldn't explain. Was she truly an alien, or had he dreamed the entire thing? Mark went about his usual routine. But everything felt different now. He couldn't focus at work, and his conversations with friends seemed empty. His mind kept drifting back to the night in the woods, to Lyra's eyes and her calm, otherworldly voice. Then, one evening, Lyra appeared again. She stood outside his house, waiting for him. Mark froze in his tracks as he stepped outside, feeling both nervous and excited at the same time. She was standing there, just like before, tall and graceful, her blue skin shimmering under the fading sunlight. "You came," Mark said, his voice thick with disbelief. "I told you I would," Lyra replied softly. She stepped forward, her movements slow and deliberate, as if she had all the time in the world. Mark took a deep breath. "I don't know what to think. I've never met anyone like you before. But I need to know more. Please, tell me why you're here." Lyra looked at him for a long moment, her silver eyes studying him intently. Finally, she spoke. "I didn't come here by accident, Mark. My people have been watching your world for centuries. We've been observing humans. You are unlike any other species we've encountered." Mark blinked, shocked by her words. "You've been watching us? For how long?" "For a long time," she answered, her voice calm. "We observe all life, forms in the universe. Some we leave to grow on their own, and others we intervene with. Your species, you are at a crossroads." Mark frowned, trying to make sense of it all. "What do you mean by crossroads?" "Your species has the potential to either destroy itself or achieve greatness," Lyra explained. "You are capable of incredible things, but your nature is also destructive. You are not alone in the universe, Mark, but you are one of the youngest species we have ever found." Mark didn't know how to respond. He had always believed that humanity was special, but now, hearing Lyra's words, he felt small and insignificant. "So, you came here to help us, or just to watch?" Lyra smiled faintly, the expression gentle, but with a hint of sadness. "I didn't come to help or hurt. I came to understand. My mission was to study you, to learn about your culture, your history. But there's something about you, Mark, about humans. You are different from what I expected." Mark's heart raced as he listened to her words. "Different how? You are more complex than I imagined. You fight and destroy, but you also create and love. It's unlike anything I've seen before. I have been taught that your species is impulsive, but now I see there's more to you than that. There's hope." Mark couldn't believe what he was hearing. Hope? Was he hearing that from someone who wasn't even human? He looked at Lyra, studying her carefully. She didn't seem like someone who would lie, but how could he know for sure? "I don't understand," Mark admitted. "You're telling me that you've studied us for centuries. But why me? Why come to Earth now, of all times?" Lyra stepped closer to him, her presence calming, almost magnetic. "I came because I was chosen. I'm not just a scientist or an observer. I am one of the few who can connect with humans. I have been trained to understand you, to communicate. But there is more that I cannot explain yet. The connection between us sits deeper than I anticipated." Mark felt his chest tighten. He wasn't sure what Lyra was saying, but he felt something stirring inside him. "So, this is more than just an observation mission? You actually care about us?" Lyra didn't answer right away. Instead, she seemed to look past him, as if her mind was far away. Finally, she spoke again. "I didn't expect to care," she said quietly. "But in your eyes, I see a spark. A spark I've only seen in my own people when we face something Important, you are not just a subject to study, Mark. You are someone I want to understand. Mark's breath caught in his throat. He had spent his entire life feeling alone, as though no one truly saw him. But here was this alien woman, someone so different from him, someone who could never truly be a part of his world, and yet she saw him. She cared. Lyra, Mark began, but his words faltered. How could he put into words what he was feeling? Was it possible for him to care about someone so unlike him? Someone from another world? Lyra reached out and touched his arm lightly. The touch was gentle, but it sent a shiver through him. It is difficult to explain, she said softly, but you will understand soon. You are more important to this world than you know, and I am more connected to you than I ever expected. Mark's mind was spinning. Everything was happening too fast, and yet he couldn't deny the growing bond between them. He didn't know what this meant, what they were, or where this was heading, but he knew one thing for sure: he didn't want to let her go. I don't understand it all, Mark said quietly, but I want to try. I want to understand you, Lyra. I want to know why I feel this way. Lyra's silver eyes softened, and for a moment, it was like the whole universe had slowed down. She gave him a small, knowing smile. Then, Mark, we will begin. As the days went by, Mark and Lyra's connection only deepened. At first, their conversations had been about the basics, the differences between their worlds, their species, and their histories. But soon, Mark found himself talking to her about things he had never shared with anyone before. His fears, his dreams, and even the things he had never been able to talk about with other humans. Lyra listened to him with an intensity that made him feel understood in a way he never had before. She, too, began to open up to him. She shared stories of her world, a place where the skies were a deeper shade of purple, and the ocean shimmered with colors that Mark couldn't imagine. She told him about her people, the ones who had watched Earth from afar for centuries. But despite the knowledge she carried, Mark could tell that Lyra, in her own way, was just as lost as he was. She had been trained to observe, not to connect. But with him, something had changed. Mark had always known that he felt different from the others around him. He didn't fit in. He was never the popular one, the one people turned to for advice or comfort. But with Lyra, it felt like he was seen for who he really was. No judgment, no expectations. Just him and her, learning about each other in their own strange way. One evening, as they sat on a quiet hill, watching the stars above them, Mark felt a pull in his chest, a feeling that had grown strong every time he was with her. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was something deeper, something undeniable. He wasn't sure how to put it into words, but it was there. It was real. Lyra was sitting beside him, her eyes lost in the vastness of the sky, her thoughts far away. Her skin glowed softly in the moonlight, and her presence felt like a gentle force wrapping around him. You know, Mark said, breaking the silence, I've never really had anyone like you in my life. Not even close. Lyra turned to face him, her eyes curious. What do you mean? She asked, her voice calm, but there was something more in it now, something warm. I mean, Mark hesitated, trying to find the right words. I mean, you don't judge me, you listen. You don't see me as just some guy. You actually want to know who I am. I've never had anyone do that before. Lyra's expression softened, and she reached out, gently touching his hand. I see you for who you are, Mark, she said softly, and I understand you in a way that I never thought possible. I know I'm not human, but maybe that's why we can understand each other. I don't have the same expectations that others might have. Mark's heart raced as he looked at her. Her touch was so gentle, yet it made him feel like he was connected to something far beyond himself. He didn't know what to say next, so he just looked at her, his chest tightening with feelings he didn't fully understand. I've been thinking about something, Mark said after a long pause. You know how we've talked about our worlds, how different we are, but I think I'm starting to realize that maybe those differences don't matter so much. Maybe it's the way we see each other that counts. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, a soft light flickering within them. She looked at him for a long moment, as if searching his face for something. Then, she nodded slowly. You are right. The differences do not matter as much as we think. It is the connection that matters. And right now, the connection between us is stronger than anything I've ever felt before. Mark felt a warmth spread through him as Lyra spoke. It was like she had reached into his heart and touched the part of him that had always been empty, the part that had always longed for someone to understand him. And for the first time in his life, he felt seen, truly seen. I'm scared, Mark admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Scared that I'm getting too close to you. I don't know what this is, but it feels different, and I don't know how to handle it. Lyra's gaze softened, and she gave a small, reassuring smile. I understand your fear, Mark, but sometimes fear is just the sign of something worth pursuing. We may not have all the answers, but we have this moment, and that is enough, Mark. Couldn't believe how calm she made him feel. The world around them seemed to disappear, and in that moment, it was just the two of them, two beings from different worlds, sharing something so real and raw. I don't know what the future holds, Mark said, his voice steadier now, but I know that I don't want to let you go. Lyra's eyes softened, and for the first time, Mark saw something in them that made his heart skip a beat. It was affection, true, deep affection. You don't have to, Mark, she whispered. I'm not going anywhere. They sat in silence for a while, the stars above them twinkling as if they were the only witnesses to the moment. Mark didn't know what tomorrow would bring, or whether he would ever truly understand what was happening between him and Lyra. But one thing was certain: he didn't want to lose her. He didn't want to lose this connection that had grown between them. Something that had started as a strange meeting in the woods, but was now something far deeper. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as alone in this world as he had always thought. The days grew longer, and the bond between Mark and Lyra continued to grow. They spent more time together, their conversations becoming deeper and more personal. Mark had never felt this way about anyone, and it both excited and scared him. He had always been cautious when it came to relationships, but this was different. He wasn't sure if he should be afraid or embrace it. One evening, they sat on the same hill where they had shared their first quiet moment. The sky was painted with shades of pink and purple, and the stars were just beginning to appear. Mark could hear the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze, and for a moment, everything felt peaceful. Lyra turned to him, her silver eyes shining with the same intensity that had captivated him from the very beginning. Mark, she said softly, I can feel the way you're thinking. You're afraid. Mark froze, his heart skipping a beat. He had tried to hide his doubts from her, but she seemed to sense them anyway. He looked away, not knowing what to say. He didn't want to admit it, but deep down, he knew she was right. I'm not sure what to think anymore, Mark admitted quietly, his voice thick with uncertainty. I've never felt this way before. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know if I should. Lyra studied him for a long time before responding. What are you afraid of, Mark? He hesitated. I'm afraid of what this means. I'm not like you. I'm human. And you're not. You're from a different world. We come from completely different places, with different lives, different ways of thinking. What if this is just a fantasy? What if we can't make it work because we're so different? Lyra's gaze softened. She reached out and placed her hand gently on his. I understand your fear, she said. But sometimes the things that scare us the most are the things that are worth pursuing. Yes, we are different, but those differences don't have to stand in the way of what we have. They can bring us closer if we allow them to. Mark looked at her, his heart heavy with doubt. But what if others don't understand? What if your people find out about us? What will they say? What will they do? Lyra's expression grew serious, and she pulled her hand back. My people have rules, Mark. They have expectations for those of us who serve as ambassadors. But I didn't come here to follow rules. I came here because of you, because of what we share. If they find out, they may not understand. They may not accept it, but I don't want to hide this. I don't want to hide you. Mark felt a mixture of relief and worry. He had never imagined that an alien from another world could feel so strongly about him. But the truth was staring him in the face. Lyra cared for him. She truly did. And yet, the fear of what would happen next gnawed at him. "What about Earth? What about me?" Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "What will happen when people find out about you? I mean, how can I explain you to anyone? What will they think?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with understanding. "I can't change who I am, Mark, and I won't ask you to change who you are either. But if we are to continue, we must face the reality of our differences. It won't be easy, it will be hard. And there will be people who don't understand, who will question us. But none of that matters if we can be honest with each other, if we can be true to ourselves." Mark took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that they could make it work, despite the challenges. But he couldn't help but feel the weight of the world on his shoulders. The world he had always known, his family, his friends. His job would never look the same once they knew about Lyra. And what about his future? Could he really leave everything behind for her? "I'm scared, Lyra," Mark said, his voice trembling. "I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can face the world and tell them that I'm in love with someone who isn't even from this planet." Lyra's expression softened even further. She gently cupped his face with her hand, making him look at her. "I know it's not easy, but I'm not asking you to face it alone. I'm here with you. I will be here. No matter what happens." Mark's chest tightened, and he could feel his heart pounding in his ears. He had never felt so vulnerable, so exposed. And yet he couldn't deny the truth of her words. She was right. She wasn't asking him to face the world alone. She was there, beside him. And somehow, that made everything seem a little less frightening. "Can we make it work?" Mark asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Lyra smiled softly. "We can try. And that's all we need to do, Mark. We don't have to have all the answers right now. We just have to keep moving forward, one step at a time." Mark nodded, a small but real sense of relief washing over him. Maybe it wouldn't be easy. Maybe it wouldn't always make sense. But in that moment, he realized something important. He didn't need to have everything figured out. He didn't need to understand all the answers. He just needed to trust Lyra, trust himself, and trust that love, in any form, was worth fighting for. As they sat together, the night wrapping around them like a blanket, Mark knew one thing for sure: he wasn't alone anymore, and that thought made all the difference. The days after their conversation on the hill were filled with uncertainty and quiet moments. Mark tried to adjust to the idea of being with someone so different from himself, but it wasn't always easy. His mind would often race with questions. What would people think? Could they really make this work? The fear of judgment still lingered in the back of his mind, but every time he looked at Lyra, he felt a little more sure of his feelings for her. She made him feel seen, understood, and cared for in a way no one else ever had. Lyra, too, seemed to struggle with her own doubts. Though she was from another world, her emotions were as real as his. She had spent so much time alone, observing the world from a distance, that now, in the presence of Mark, she felt vulnerable. The pull between them was undeniable, but the reality of their differences weighed heavily on her as well. Then, one evening, everything changed. Mark was in the middle of his usual routine when he received the call. It was from Lyra, but her voice sounded different this time, tense, urgent. "Mark, you need to come to me. Something has happened," Lyra said quickly. Her words were sharp, filled with worry. "What's going on?" Mark asked, his heart racing. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but you need to hurry," Lyra replied. "I don't have much time to explain, but I'm in danger. I need your help." Mark's stomach dropped. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed his keys and ran out the door. His mind raced, trying to understand what was happening. Why was she in danger? What could possibly threaten someone like Lyra, who had traveled across galaxies? When he arrived at the clearing where they had first met, Lyra was waiting for him. But she didn't look the same. Her usually calm and confident demeanor was replaced with anxiety. She stood with her head down, her silver eyes scanning the trees as if she were looking for something or someone. "What's going on, Lyra?" Mark asked, his voice filled with concern. "What's happening?" Lyra turned to face him, her expression grave. "It's my people," she said quietly. "They've discovered what's happening between us. They don't understand. They see it as a violation of their laws. They've decided to take action." Mark's chest tightened. "What kind of action? What are they going to do?" "They're coming to take me back," Lyra said, her voice shaking slightly. "They don't care about me. They care about their mission. They won't let me stay here. Not after what I've done." Mark felt a rush of panic. "What do you mean? What you've done?" "You haven't done anything wrong. I haven't followed their rules," Lyra replied. "They believe I've compromised my mission by becoming emotionally involved with a human. To them, it's a weakness." Mark stepped closer to her, his heart racing. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You can't let them take you. Lyra, you don't belong with them. You belong here, with me." Lyra's expression softened, but she shook her head. "I don't have a choice. They will do whatever it takes to bring me back." "I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't want this to happen." Mark's mind raced as he looked at her. He couldn't lose her. He wouldn't let her go without a fight. There had to be a way to stop this, a way to protect her. He knew he couldn't fight her people alone, but he couldn't just stand by and watch her leave. "I won't let them take you," Mark said, his voice firm. "We'll find a way to stop them. We'll find a way to be together." Lyra looked at him with a mixture of surprise and sadness. "Mark, this isn't something you can fix. I'm not human. My people will do anything to protect their laws. It's dangerous. I don't want to drag you into this." Mark's chest tightened, but he stood tall. "I'm already in this, Lyra. I don't care about the danger. I care about you." Lyra's eyes softened, but she still seemed torn. "I wish things were different," she said softly. "But this isn't something we can control. You have to understand, Mark, if they come for me, I can't stay." Mark took a deep breath, his thoughts racing. He knew this wasn't going to be easy, but he couldn't let her go. Not without a fight. "I don't care if they're from another planet," Mark said, his voice steady. "I'll fight for you. Lyra, I'll do whatever it takes." Lyra stepped closer to him, her silver eyes meeting his. For a moment, everything else faded away. It was just the two of them, standing there in the woods, facing an uncertain future together. "I don't know how we can win this fight, Mark," Lyra said quietly, "but I will fight with you. I won't let them take me without a reason." Mark reached out and took her hand in his, holding it tightly. "We'll figure it out, together." In that moment, Mark knew one thing for sure: he couldn't live without her. He wasn't going to let anyone take her from him. He didn't know how, but he was determined to find a way to protect their love, no matter the cost. The night air was thick with tension, but also with a new sense of resolve. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and nothing, not even the entire galaxy, would stand in their way. Mark's heart raced as he and Lyra stood in the clearing, the tension between them growing thicker with each passing moment. He had no idea how to stop the arrival of Lyra's people, but he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going to let her go without a fight. He had made up his mind, and there was no turning back. As Lyra had warned him, it wasn't going to be easy. Her people had strict rules. They didn't understand emotions the way humans did. To them, Lyra's feelings for Mark were a weakness, something that had to be corrected. They would come for her, and they would do whatever it took to bring her back to their world. "We have to be ready," Lyra said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "They'll come quickly. They're more powerful than you think." Mark nodded, his mind spinning with thoughts of how to protect her. He had no weapons, no way to fight her people, but he knew one thing: he couldn't let them take her. Not after everything they had been through. He had to find a way, no matter the cost. Lyra's silver eyes met his. "Mark, this isn't your fight. You don't need to risk your life for me. I should leave. It's safer this way." "No," Mark said firmly, shaking his head. "You're not leaving. Not without me. We'll figure this out together." Lyra looked at him, a mixture of love and sorrow in her eyes. "I don't want to put you in danger," she whispered. But if they come for me, I won't be able to stop them. You'll be caught in the middle. Mark's hand reached out and gently cupped her face. I don't care about danger. I care about you. For a moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, standing in the woods, holding on to each other. Mark could feel the warmth of her skin, the gentle rise and fall of her breath. And in that moment, he realized something. It didn't matter what challenges they faced. They had each other, and that was enough. Suddenly, the air shifted. A strange hum filled the air, a sound that Mark could feel in his bones. Lyra's eyes widened in alarm. They're here, she said, her voice tight with fear. Mark, you need to leave. Now. But Mark stood firm. No, I'm staying with you. I'm not running. Before Lyra could say another word, a group of figures appeared from the shadows of the trees. They were tall, imposing, and wore dark, armored suits that shimmered in the dim light. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their presence was overwhelming. They were unlike anything Mark had ever seen before, and for a moment, fear washed over him. Lyra stepped in front of Mark, her body tense, ready to face her people. I didn't want this, she said, her voice cold. But I will not go back. With you? The leader of the group stepped forward, his eyes glowing brighter. He was taller than the others, his presence commanding. Lyra, he said in a deep, resonant voice, you are violating the laws of our people. You must return with us. Your emotions have clouded your judgment. Lyra's voice was steady, but Mark could hear the hint of pain in it. I will not go back. I have made my choice, and it is not with you. The leader's gaze shifted to Mark, his eyes narrowing. You, he said, his voice filled with disdain. You are the cause of this. You have corrupted her. She was meant to observe, not to feel. You have no place in this. Mark stood tall, trying to hide the fear he felt. I don't care what you think. I'm not leaving her. We have something real, something that you will never understand. I won't let you take her from me. The leader looked at Mark with a mix of confusion and anger. You are human. Your understanding of love is primitive. You do not comprehend the consequences of your actions. Mark took a step forward, his fists clenched. I don't care about the consequences. If loving her is wrong, then I'm guilty. But I'm not going to let you take her. The tension in the air was thick, and Mark could feel the weight of the moment. Everything felt like it was hanging by a thread. One wrong move, and everything could fall apart. He had no idea what the leader and his people would do, but he wasn't backing down. Lyra placed her hand on his arm, her touch warm and steady. Mark, we've come this far, she whispered, and whatever happens now, we will face it together. Mark turned to her, his heart swelling with love and determination. He wasn't going to let her go. No matter what, they would be together. The leader of the group stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. You are both foolish, he said. You have no idea what you're up against. If you refuse to return with us, we will be forced to take action. Lyra stood tall, her eyes flashing with a strength Mark had never seen before. Do what you must, she said. But I will not return with you. Mark's breath caught in his throat. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure: they were both ready to face whatever came their way, together. The leader's gaze softened slightly, but he remained firm. So be it, he said. You have made your choice. And with that, the group turned and began to disappear into the shadows of the forest, leaving Mark and Lyra standing together, their hearts beating in unison. Mark didn't know what the future held, but as he looked at Lyra, standing beside him, he knew one thing for sure: he would never let her go. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, and that was all that mattered. The days after the confrontation with Lyra's people were both tense and hopeful. Mark and Lyra had made it through the worst, but now they faced an uncertain future. Despite the leader's threat, they had stood their ground together. The leader had left with his group, but the tension had not fully disappeared. Mark knew it wasn't over. Lyra's people could return at any time, and they could be even more dangerous than before. But for now, Mark and Lyra were safe, and that was all that mattered. They spent their days in the woods, away from prying eyes, finding solace in each other's company. They talked about everything: the future, their dreams, and the challenges they would face together. The more time Mark spent with Lyra, the more he realized how much he had come to care for her. She wasn't just someone from another world. She was someone he could imagine a life with. A real life, even though it seemed impossible at times. One evening, they sat on the same hill where they had shared their first conversation. The sky was a deep shade of blue, and the stars were scattered across it like diamonds. The wind blew softly, and for a moment, everything felt peaceful. Lyra leaned her head on Mark's shoulder, her silver eyes gazing at the stars. "Do you think it's possible, Mark?" she asked, her voice quiet. "Do you think we can make this work?" Despite everything, Mark looked at her, his heart swelling. With love, he had no answers, no way of knowing what the future would hold. But he knew one thing for sure. "I don't know what will happen next," he said softly, "but I do know that I don't want to be without you. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Lyra smiled, the expression gentle and full of emotion. "I feel the same way," she said. "I never thought I could feel this way. I never thought I would find someone like you. Someone who truly understands me." Mark took her hand in his, holding it tightly. "And I never thought I would find someone like you, Lyra. Someone who makes me feel like I'm not alone. Someone who makes me believe that love is worth fighting." For a moment, they sat in silence, their hearts beating in time with each other. Mark could feel the warmth of Lyra's hand in his, the soft glow of her skin, and the gentle pull of their connection. It was like nothing he had ever experienced. Before dawn, as the night went on, the weight of the world seemed to lift. They had come so far, and yet there was still so much ahead of them. The uncertainty was still there, but it didn't feel as overwhelming anymore. With Lyra by his side, Mark knew that he could face anything. The next morning, they made a decision. They couldn't stay hidden forever. They couldn't keep running from the challenges that lay ahead. They had to take control of their own future. "I can't keep hiding," Lyra said, determination in her voice. "I can't keep running from who I am, from who we are. If we're going to be together, we have to stand up to my people. We have to make them see that love is worth more than their laws." Mark nodded. He had known this moment was coming. "You're right," he said. "We can't live in fear. We have to show them that what we have is real, and that it's worth everything." And so, together, they made a plan. They would go to Lyra's people, not as enemies, but as equals. They would fight for their love, for their future, and for the chance to be together without fear. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. They knew that. But they were ready. They were ready to face whatever came next, together. Days passed as they prepared for what was to come. They didn't know how Lyra's people would react, but they had to believe that their love was powerful enough to overcome any obstacle. They were stronger than they had ever been before, and their bond was unbreakable. On the day they were ready to leave, Mark and Lyra stood together, facing the unknown. They didn't know what the future held, but they had each other, and that was enough. As they walked hand in hand, the world seemed to open up before them. The challenges ahead would be difficult, but they were no longer afraid. They were ready to face the future, no matter what it brought, because they knew that as long as they were together, they could overcome anything. Lyra looked up at Mark, her silver eyes shining with love. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice full of hope. Mark smiled, his heart full of certainty. "I've never been more ready." And with that, they stepped forward into the unknown, knowing that their love would guide them, no matter where the journey took them.